Welcome, villagers, to the village hidden in the stories. I'm your guide, All Kage, the creator and author of all the what-if stories you see on this channel, with your awesome suggestions, of course. I write, edit, and produce every story you hear, so if you're wondering who made it, it's me. I hope you enjoy today's video. Be sure to leave your what-if ideas in the comments and subscribe if you're new. Today's story is What If Naruto Was in the Owl House Part 1. I took more time with this one, not to say that it took too much time, just saying I have slowly gone through to make it, and I really like it. Which is why you guys are getting a full series of this, hopefully. I'm gonna at least try to get you all a full series without worrying about views, hope you like it. Before we dive in, shout out time. Thanks so much to everyone who comments, keep them coming. And our second shout-outs for my Shinobi Patreon members, a special thanks to them, Omar, and Francios Lyman. If you'd like to support the channel, check out my Patreon, link in the description. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this what if. Part 1, The Witch and Her Fox. The air outside was thick with that lazy kind of summer warmth, sunlight pooling on the cracked sidewalk, the faint hum of cicadas carrying through the trees that bordered their quiet neighborhood. At the end of the driveway stood a girl, her ride still minutes away, her chest tight from holding in everything she wanted to say. She was tall, taller than the average for her age, her frame half swallowed by an oversized white and purple hoodie that hung loose over slim black pants. Stray curls escaped the hood, brushing her cheeks in the soft breeze. There was something restless in her posture, an energy trying to be contained, her hands stayed buried deep in her pockets. As if keeping them there would stop her from sketching, gesturing, doing. The woods beyond her house swayed gently, sunlight slipping through the leaves like the promise of some far-off adventure she wasn't sure she'd ever reach. Somewhere behind her, inside the house, her mother was still getting ready for work. They hadn't talked yet about the internship letter waiting on the kitchen counter, but Luz already knew what that talk would sound like. It's a good opportunity, it's time to think about your future, you can't live in stories forever. She glanced down at the well-worn copy of The Good Witch Azura in her hands, the edges curled and soft from too many rereads. She hadn't thrown it away, couldn't. It rested against her chest like a piece of armor, the pages creased in all the right places. The warm air wrapped around her, but the ache beneath her ribs stayed cool and heavy, the feeling of someone caught between who she was and who she was expected to become. Before her thoughts could wander deeper, the sound of a door opening and closing pulled her back. Her eyes lifted to her mother, Camila, standing by the porch. She was nearly as tall as Luz, maybe a little shorter, her thicker frame wrapped in nurse outfit, hair tied back in a loose ponytail. Red glasses framed eyes that softened the moment they met her daughter's. "My baby," Camila sighed, stepping forward to hug her. Tone protective as much as affectionate. When she pulled back, she held Luz by the shoulders, her gaze scanning over her. Luz tried to hold a steady expression, but her uncertainty slipped through. "You don't need to worry," Camila said with a small, reassuring smile. "This internship, it's only 3 months. And your first real one. You'll be busy balancing checkbooks, thinking about college, figuring out what you want to do with your life. The time will fly by." Luz stayed quiet. She knew her mother meant well, but this wasn't her. None of them ever were. Every internship, every opportunity, felt more like an intervention, a hands-on way for her mother to push her toward a future Luz couldn't see herself in. "I understand, Mom," Luz said finally, forcing a small smile. "But this is the 15th time you've signed me up for one of these. Maybe we could try something else?" For a brief second, hope flickered in her eyes, then faded when Camila frowned. "Mija, your fantasy world is holding you back." Her tone was soft but firm. "Do you have any friends, real ones, not imagined or drawn?" The words hit harder than Luz wanted to admit. Her gaze dropped to the ground, shoulders curling inward. Camila's voice softened again as she reached out, cupping Luz's cheek and tilting her face upward. "I understand wanting to be into all those cool things, your animes, your costumes, but Luz. You're almost 17. This internship is just a chance to see what you really want from the real world, not some magical one. Do you understand? Yes, Mom, Luz answered quietly, her voice tired and small. She let her book slip from her fingers, landing with a soft thud in the trash bin beside her. Before either could say another word, Camilla's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, sighed, then looked back with a faint, apologetic smile. I've got to get to work, she said, pressing a kiss to Luz's forehead before stepping toward the curb. You'll be okay, right? I don't need to drive you. Luz nodded, forcing that practiced, hollow smile. She didn't trust her voice to hold. Okay, Camila said, her tone brightening as if to hide her worry. Text me when you get there, alright? Cuídate mucho, mi hija. Que te vaya bien. Take good care of yourself, my daughter. Good luck. Then she was gone. The warm air settled again, the only movement the fluttering pages of the Good Witch Azura in the trash, catching the sunlight like it refused to be forgotten. Luz turned away from the trash bin, exhaling through her nose. The frustration she'd been holding in finally slipped past her control. Her mother wasn't wrong, deep down she knew that. Camila only wanted what was best. But knowing that didn't make it any easier to hear, not when every word about the real world felt like a quiet dismissal of everything that made her her. She raked a hand through her hair and took a few steps toward the curb, trying to swallow the anger before it could turn into guilt. Maybe Mom was right. Maybe she really did need to start growing up. The thought twisted painfully in her chest. She blinked, eyes drifting back toward the bin. She hadn't meant to throw the book away. Azura had been her favorite since she was 10. She told herself it was just a gesture, a way to prove she could let go. But she hadn't meant it. Her stomach dropped. The bin was empty. She frowned, leaning closer. No way. Luz lifted the lid, rummaging through the trash, confused. It had been right there a minute ago. A soft hoot broke the silence. Her head snapped up. Just past the bin, near the tree lean, stood a small owl and an equally small fox, both clutching the corner of a worn burlap sack. The owl gripped it in its beak, the fox held the other side in its jaws. The owl's feathers were dark brown, its eyes a sharp yellow that glinted against the sunlit trees. The fox's fur was a deep burnt orange, its red eyes narrowed, not at her, but at the owl beside it, as if silently blaming it for getting them caught. Inside the sack, Luz's heart skipped, a flash of purple cover, her book. For a second, she just stared, trying to process what she was looking at. Then her body moved before her brain caught up. Hey! That's mine. She lunged forward, only to have the pair dodge with perfect coordination. The fox darted aside, the owl took to the air, and Luz's hands met grass instead of fur. Groaning, she pushed herself up just in time to see them retreating, the owl soaring low, the fox sprinting beneath, the stolen sack flailing behind them. What, how did you two even get it out the trash? She muttered, brushing dirt from her hoodie. The question didn't matter. The sight of her book vanishing into the woods lit a spark of determination under her ribs. Oh no, you're not getting away that easy. She ran. Branches whipped past her, sunlight breaking through the canopy in thin golden lines. The world around her grew quieter, the hum of the neighborhood fading behind her as the air thickened with the earthy scent of moss and damp bark. Still, she didn't slow. The chase ended at the edge of a clearing, where an old, desolate house waited, its roof sagging, windows shattered, the doorway hanging open like a mouth mid-breath. Luz hesitated only a second. The owl and fox slipped through the door without a pause. Great, she muttered, catching her breath. Either this is how every horror movie starts. Or how my day gets interesting. Then, clutching the strap of her bag, she ran straight into the open doorway. With one dash, Luz went from the damp shadows of an abandoned house to the dim interior of a small tent. The air smelled of dust, herbs, and something faintly metallic. Junk or treasure, depending on who you asked, covered every surface: trinkets, cracked mirrors, odd jars stacked carelessly on crates. She barely noticed the change in scenery. stop adorably skittering away you. She froze, realizing the fox and owl had already slipped outside. Her pace slowed as curiosity took over. Whoa, I thought my room was bad, she murmured, lifting a creepy one-eyed doll before quickly setting it down. This is impressive. A woman's voice cut through the tent. Finally, you're back. It wasn't directed at her, but it made Luz jump. She crept to the tent flap and lifted it just enough to peek outside. A middle-aged woman stood there, her gray hair tied back with a green bandana, a red dress brushing her knees. Taller than Luz, with sharp golden eyes and a grin that showed a single pointed tooth, she looked equal parts eccentric and dangerous. Let's see what we've got here, the woman said as the owl and fox approached with their sack. The fox's dark orange fur glinted in the light before it vanished in a puff of smoke, reappearing a heartbeat later curled in the woman's hair like it lived there. The owl landed on her staff and became part of it, sharp feathers turning to wood. Luz could only stare. The woman rummaged through the bag. Phone, garbage. Toss. Ring, garbage. Toss. Golden chalice, garbage. Toss. Then her eyes lit up as she pulled out a pair of joke glasses. Now these, she said with a grin, putting them on, these will make me rich, nice haul Naruto. The fox on her head yawned and said nothing. A moment later, the woman drew out a familiar purple-covered book, Luz's Good Witch Azura. She held it up to a candle flame. This, not so much, should make for good kindling though. Luz gasped. Hey, she rushed forward, snatching the book from her hands. Excuse me, sorry, mine, thank you. She turned to run, but her escape route folded in on itself, the strange door with an eye blinking shut and vanishing behind her. When she spun back, the woman was blocking the way, holding a key shaped like an eye. You're not going anywhere, she said coolly. A cold ripple crawled down Luz's spine. Whatever this was, it wasn't normal, and she was done. She stuffed her book into her bag and bolted for the back of the tent. She barely stopped in time before pitching over a cliff. Panting, Luz stared, wide-eyed. Below stretched a sprawling landscape of impossible chaos, a city built on the corpse of a giant, houses with teeth and arms, creatures flitting through violet-tinted air. A dragon swooped low and was caught by one of the giant's skeletal hands. Smoke curled lazily upward, purple against a lavender sky. What, she breathed. What is this place? Her thoughts scrambled for sense, dream, hallucination, anything, until a flutter of wings pulled her gaze left. A tiny, glowing fairy hovered near her face, smiling sweetly. Relief softened her features. Oh, hello little fairy, are you gonna tell me this is all a dream? The creature blinked, then screamed, give me your skin. Luz yelped and slapped it away, the impact echoing off stone. What is wrong with this place? She froze, staring at the monstrous skyline again, heart racing. Did I die? She whispered, voice trembling. Then, louder, am I in the bad place? Her words carried into the strange, sun-drenched purple sky. You wish. The voice came from behind her. Luz spun around, and froze. The gray-haired woman she'd just run from was there, frowned sharp enough to cut. Before she could bolt, the woman grabbed her by the hood and hauled her off the ground. Back through the tent Luz went, dropped roughly onto a stool. Her heart pounded, unknown place, unknown person, definite red flag. I'm so sorry, Luz blurted. I just wanted my book, maybe I can offer you something that doesn't involve, eating my skin? The woman blinked, looking offended. Eat you, why would I eat a potential customer? Her mood flipped instantly to excitement as she spun around the tent, arms wide. The fox on her head just stared. Unimpressed. Luz didn't move, wondering if this woman was unstable or just overly dramatic. Through the tent flaps, she spotted other stalls, other strange sellers. Maybe this wasn't a dungeon after all, just a bizarre market. The carved owl motifs, stacks of trinkets, and faint smell of spice all felt oddly normal. Can I offer you a human foot filled with holes? the woman asked suddenly, holding up a green crock. Or a bar of green human candy, she swapped it for deodorant, before dropping it and picking up a blank portable TV. Oh, maybe this black box that reflects only sadness. Luz blinked, then chuckled softly. That's not all it can do. She took the TV, grabbed 2 batteries from a bowl labeled human candy, and clicked them in. The screen burst to life, blasting an old jazzercise video through the tent. Voila, Luz said, proud despite herself. The woman's eyes widened, and so did everyone else's. Creatures gathered, drawn to the sound. What's that noise? One hissed, I'll pay 40 snails for it. Another shouted, I'll give 100. Within seconds, the tent was swarmed. The woman grinned, shoving cash into her hair as she took bids from every direction. What did you say your name was, dear? She asked between handfuls of money. Luz Nocita. Well, Luz, she said with a smirk, that was clever, for a human. Luz frowned, that's kind of a weird thing for another human to say. Oh, dear child, the woman said, removing her bandana. The fox slid off her head with a thud, but Luz only noticed the pointed ears revealed beneath the gray hair. I'm not like you, the woman continued, climbing onto the table. I'm Ida the Owl Lady, the most powerful witch on the Boiling Isles. The crowd that remained gasped in awe. Luz's eyes widened. A witch, a real one, half of her wanted to scream, the other half to ask for an autograph. Ida grinned wider, posing dramatically. I am respected, feared, busted, a rough voice shouted. A uniformed guard stomped into view, mask shaped like a beak. He slammed down a wanted poster, depicting Ida holding fire in her right, and a staff in her left. Ida the Owl Lady, wanted for misuse of magic and demonic misdemeanors. He held up another, depicting a monstrous 9-tailed fox. And your accomplice. Luz glanced at the tiny fox beside her, seriously? Would you guys quit following me around? Ida groaned. I haven't done squat. And you are coming too, the guard grabbed Luz by the hood. For fraternizing with a criminal. Well, crap, Luz muttered. Ida sighed, feigning surrender, fine, you win, just let me get my stuff. She bent down, then sprang up, swinging her staff in a wide arc that cracked the guard's head. He dropped with a grunt. Ida tapped her staff against the ground, and the tent's contents floated into the air. Luz stumbled back, eyes wide. Can't forget this, Ida said, pulling a key with an eye on it from her hair. She pressed it, and the same glowing door from before folded into a suitcase. One gesture wrapped her items in cloth, and she slung them over her shoulder. Follow me, human. Luz hesitated only a second before sprinting after her. This is insane, if I die here, my mom's gonna kill me. Relax, Ida said, smirking as the fox leapt back onto her head. A human like you's worth more alive than dead. Wait, what does that even, whoa. Ida yanked her onto the staff, the owl totem at the top of it glowing gold, with wooden wings stretching out. Then they shot into the air. The marketplace shrinking beneath them. Wind tore through Luz's hoodie as she clung tight, wide-eyed, book pressed to her chest. The wind roared around Luz, the air rushing past her so fast it almost stung. She could feel it whipping her hair, tugging at her clothes, the world beneath her nothing but a blur. Her knuckles turned white from gripping the staff too tight. She was too scared to open her eyes, afraid of what she'd see if she did. Then Ida's voice broke through the rush of air, you can open your eyes now, human. Luz hesitated, then slowly opened them, instantly screaming when she realized how high they were. Flying staffs, crazy monsters, you're a witch. What is this place? Ida just laughed, easily pulling Luz back upright before she could tumble off. This is the Boiling Isles, every myth you humans have is caused by a little of our world leaking into yours. That made Luz pause. Her fear gave way to awe. She finally looked around, really looked. The landscape stretched endlessly beneath them, bone-like mountains jutting from the ground, rivers glowing faintly in shades of blue and green, strange little towns clinging to the sides of cliffs. In the distance, something enormous that looked like a skull loomed half buried in fog. Winged creatures of every shape and size filled the sky, flying in flocks that twisted through the air like ribbons. A griffin flew up beside them. Wings spread wide as it screeched. Luz gasped. It looked almost exactly like one she'd drawn when she was younger. But that excitement exploded when the griffin coughed and barfed out a cloud of spiders. Her smile grew. I knew it. Her thoughts began to fester as she took everything in. The sights, the color, the movement, it was all so fantastical, almost exactly how she used to imagine worlds in her head when she was younger. Magic, monsters, adventure, it was the same kind of thing that made her live inside her own stories. The kind her mom never really understood. But now that she was here, she realized how different it really was. This place might have looked like her dreams. But it didn't feel like them. There was danger here, real danger. The kind that wasn't in the stories she told herself to escape. Then Ida's voice cut through her thoughts. Yep, griffins, vampires, giraffes. Giraffes, Luz repeated. Oh yeah, Ida said with a small grin, chuckling. We banished those guys, bunch of freaks. They dove suddenly, gliding down toward a forest. The staff floated just above the grass before Ida hopped off easily. Luz blinked in relief, until she realized Ida's hand was still gripping the staff. The detached hand wiggled once before crawling on its own toward Ida. Luz screamed and jumped off, landing hard on her feet. Oops, Ida screwed her hand back on like it was nothing. That happens sometimes. Luz stood frozen a few feet away from the floating staff, eyes wide, still picturing the crawling hand. Okay, she breathed, voice shaky. I think I've had enough adventure for one day. This isn't exactly the PG fantasy world I always dreamed about. Maybe just tell me how to get home. Ida leveled the owl end of her staff in front of Luz, making her flinch. Only if you help me first. Ida chuckled, lifting her staff and walking away. Her bag floated behind her, the small orange fox still resting lazily on her head, eyes closed and tail flicking slowly. Ah, now, come along human, she said over her shoulder. They walked for a while before Luz finally noticed the faint glow on the horizon. When they stepped through the trees, she froze. The house that stood before them looked alive. Crooked towers leaned toward each other, roof tiles shaped like feathers, and glowing windows blinking faintly in the dark, and one giant eye at the very top of the building, another window made to look as if it could actually blink. The whole thing looked like it had been built from bone and magic. Ida smirked, behold, my hideout. Luz's mouth fell open. That's your house? Ida grinned proudly. Yep. The one and only. State-of-the-art defense system too, and the best guard dog the strongest witch in the Isles could ask for. That made the fox on her head growl softly, but it still didn't open its eyes. Luz looked up at it again, wondering just what was different about foxes in this world. Then a voice came from the door itself, hoot hoot, password please. Luz jumped as the face of an owl on the door came to life. Ida sighed and poked it in both eyes. We got no time for this hootie, let us in. All right, geez, you never want to have any fun. Ow, hoot. The owl's mouth opened wide enough to form the entrance. Ida and Luz stepped through while her bag floated in after them. The door closed with a loud burp. Inside, Ida snapped her fingers dramatically. Candles lit themselves. A fire crackled to life in the fireplace. A cauldron began to stir on its own while a broom swept past Luz's leg. Overhead, a depiction of some kind of owl beast glowed faintly, releasing a shrill screech before fading again. Welcome to the Owl House, Ida announced proudly. Where I hide out from the guards, or my 7 evil exes, mostly the guards. Luz stood speechless, spinning slowly in place as she tried to take it all in. This place is so beautiful. Do you live alone? She asked after a moment. Ida pointed upward with a grin. That lazy one on my head counts as a roommate, and there's another. Loud, heavy stomps echoed from down the hall, making Luz tense. A shadow stretched into the main room before a booming voice filled the air. "Who dares intrude upon I, the king of demons?" The shadow stopped as its owner stepped into view, a small creature, black fur, horned dog-like skull for a head, wearing a bathrobe, clutching a rubber duck. His voice shifted from powerful to high-pitched and squeaky. Luz blinked, paused for half a second, then gasped, running toward him. "I, K. Lindo." She squealed, scooping him up in a bear hug. "Ida, he's so cute, who's the whittle guy, who's the whittle guy, is it you, is it you?" The little creature kicked and flailed in her arms. "No, I don't know who your little guy is." "Ida, Fox, who is this monster?" Ida laughed, stepping over to pull Luz away. "King, this is Luz, the human. She's here to help us with our little situation." King stopped struggling, his demeanor flipping instantly. "Oh, hooray." The fox on Ida's head rolled its eyes. Luz noticed but stayed focused, brow furrowing. "Wait, I don't like the sound of this situation." Ida twirled her hand, drawing a glowing spell circle that darkened into a floating storybook. King was once a mighty king of demons, until his crown of power was stolen, and he became, Luz interrupted, hugging King again. "This adorable little guy." "Exactly," Ida said with a smirk. The crown's being held by the evil warden Wrath, locked away behind a magical barrier that only a human can break through. When Ida looked back, Luz was still holding King to her cheek. The witch didn't seem to mind. "A human like you," Ida said simply. "If you help us retrieve his crown, we'll send you back to your realm. So, what do you say?" Plus, she lifted King by the face, shaking him lightly. Who could say no to this cute face? King squirmed in panic. "No, please don't encourage her." Ida let King drop to the floor and straightened her staff. "And, we're basically your only way home, kid." That made Luz pause. The room felt heavier for a moment, the crackle of the fire behind her filling the silence. Her mind started racing. Just minutes ago, she'd been at home, normal world, normal life, normal plans. She was supposed to be packing for a summer internship. Not standing in some weird witch's living room surrounded by cauldrons and talking animals. Part of her wanted to laugh at how insane it all was. The other part wanted to panic. This can't be real, she thought, clutching her Azure book tighter. This is the kind of thing you read about, not the kind of thing you survive. And yet, something deep inside her stirred, the same feeling she used to get when she stayed up too late reading, or when she'd finish a story and imagine what came next. That old spark that had been fading under rules, chores, and growing up. Still, the danger was real here. She'd seen enough in one day to know that. The ferry, the guards, every part of her said to go home. To find a way out, to forget this world existed. But she looked at King, small and puffed up but so sure of himself. Then at Ida, this chaotic witch who had somehow felt more honest with her in an hour than most people did in a month. It was reckless, stupid even, but wasn't that what adventure always was before it became a story? Luz finally exhaled. "So, I don't really have a choice, do I?" "Nope," Ida said brightly before scooping Luz up and tossing her over her shoulder. "Now, we've got no time to lose." King picked up his rubber duck and followed after them. "Soon, Mr. Ducky, we shall drink the fear of those who mocked us." "Where are we going?" Luz asked, voice caught somewhere between nervous and excited. Ida smirked. "Somewhere super fun." The fox on her head gave a quiet snort. Luz noticed it, frowning slightly, her thoughts starting to turn uneasy again. Night fell fast over the boiling isles, the air cooled, heavy with that eerie quiet that hinted danger. Below the jagged outline of a massive tower, Ida, Luz, King, and the small fox crouched in the shadows, just under what Ida called the conformatorium, a prison for those unsuitable for society. The building loomed above them, its narrow windows glowing sickly green. The walls looked alive, slick and shifting in the dim light. Luz pressed against the stone, her eyes catching a wanted poster fluttering nearby, Ida's face. smirking. Whoa, these guys really have the hots for you. Ida grinned, yep, but they never caught me, we're too slippery. King scrambled up Luza's shoulder and onto her head. Try catching me when I'm covered in grease. I'm a squirmy little fella, he slipped and yelped, landing on his feet. See? Luz laughed softly as King pointed at the tall tower ahead. You and I will sneak up to the top, where they're holding my crown. Ida crossed her arms. And Naruto here will keep you both safe. The fox finally stirred, glaring up from her head with a tired, unimpressed look. Luz couldn't help smiling. How's he supposed to protect us? Ida chuckled, he's more than he seems. Fox, play nice and protect the human and King, and don't sleep on the job. Naruto's ears twitched like he wanted to argue, but he sighed and leapt onto Luza's shoulder, eyes half shut but alert. Ida turned toward the tower, I'll make sure the warden's distracted. What about disguises? Luz asked, excitement sneaking into her voice. Before Ida could answer, Luz pulled her hood up, cat ears stitched on top. She flicked them upright with her fingers. Meow, meow. King blinked, how old are you? She'll fit right in, Ida said, smirking. The fox didn't even move. With a tap of her staff, Ida summoned a glowing platform. Meet you at the top, she called, lifting off on her staff while Luza's platform rose toward a tower window. It vanished midair, forcing her to grab the ledge while King clung to her boots. Cats don't do this, King yelled as they scrambled inside. Luz groaned, pushing herself up, and froze. Before her stretched rows of iron-barred cells, each holding shapes too shadowed to name. Dozens of glowing eyes followed their every move. Hey cat lady, someone called. Luz turned to see a girl her age, ponytailed, arms crossed behind bars. How'd you get out of your cell? Oh, I'm not a cat, Luz tugged her hood down. And I'm not a criminal. Not yet, you're not, King muttered, Naruto's tail flicked once. Neither are we, the girl huffed. The warden locks up anyone who doesn't fit in. I write fanfics about food falling in love. She held up a notebook. I like food, I like love, just let me write about it. A man with too many eye sockets chimed in. I'm here because I like eating my own eyes. He plucked one out and swallowed it, blinking as it reappeared. A tiny creature clung to its bars. We are agents of free expression, they will never silence us. Yeah, she's big on conspiracy theories, the witch muttered. The world is a simulation, the creature shrieked. Luza's smile faded, none of them looked dangerous, just different. Misfits, people punished for being themselves. She knew the feeling. Standing there, she remembered every time her mom called her imagination a distraction. Every time someone told her to grow up. Her mom wasn't cruel, she just didn't understand. Luz wanted to explain that this was who she was, that she didn't need to fit neatly into a box. And now, looking at these prisoners, she realized they were here for the same reason she'd always felt out of place, they didn't fit in either. Her thoughts snapped when footsteps thundered down the hall. It's Warden Wrath, hide. Luz ducked into an empty cell, slamming the door shut just as a massive shadow filled the doorway. Warden Wrath filled the frame, massive, pale-skinned, and monstrous, his face hidden behind a slightly torn executioner's mask. The cell seemed to darken around him as his deep voice rumbled through the room. I can hear you. What are you fools whispering about? He picked up a wanted poster. Ah, the owl lady. His fist morphed into a hammer and slammed the bars beside Luz. She jumped. I'll get my hands on her soon enough. Before he could look closer, the small round prisoner shouted from her cell, fight against the oppressor, we will resist, we will conquer, we will never be afraid of you, you old queep. Wrath turned, opening her cell slowly. Hoay, I'm free, she cheered, before being caught in his massive hand. Let this be a lesson, there's no place in society for those who can't fit in. He crushed the wanted poster underfoot and left, the door slamming behind him. Silence fell. Luz rushed from her cell to the witches, gripping the lever. Don't worry, I can get you out. She pulled hard, but the metal didn't budge. The witch stepped forward, shaking her head. The witch stopped her gently. Just go, kid. Enjoy freedom for us. Luz hesitated, guilt heavy in her chest, before backing away. This isn't fair, she thought. None of this is. But she, King, and Naruto, still walked away from the room. Before she could think further, Ida's voice broke through the quiet. Hey! Luz spun around. Ida floated just outside an open window, leaning casually on her staff. I just checked, the warden's distracted, tormenting some tiny creature. He won't be around for a while. Luz didn't answer. She just kept walking beside Ida, silent and thoughtful, as they reached the massive double doors ahead. In gold lettering, the sign above read, Contraband. King sprinted ahead of them, claws scraping against the stone floor as he latched his entire body onto the iron handle of the towering door. My crown, it's close, I can sense its power. Ida chuckled softly, watching his stubby limbs wriggle with effort. Ah, he gets so cute when he's thirsty for power. Luz lingered near the entrance, her gaze flicking back toward the dim hallway and all the cells they'd passed. It's not fair that they're all in here, she muttered under her breath. They just want to be themselves. Why does everyone think being a weirdo is so bad? Her voice cracked slightly, the question hanging between her and Ida. For a second, the witch's grin faded, only for King's triumphant grunt to interrupt. The doorknob clattered to the floor, and he shoved the door open with a squeal of delight. Come on, Ida sighed, but there was warmth behind it. Before he hurts himself. The words had barely left her mouth when a zap echoed through the chamber, followed by King's pained yelp. Luz winced. They hurried inside. The room was nearly empty except for a glowing pillar pulsing faintly in the center. King rubbed his head, then charged at it again, skull first. He bounced off like a rubber ball. Ida pinched the bridge of her nose. We have a human, remember? Oh yeah, King muttered, shaking himself off. Luz exhaled a steadying breath as the small fox on her shoulder stretched and leapt down, padding beside her silently. She reached out to the shimmering wall, felt warmth pulse through her palm, and stepped through. The inside was nothing like she expected. Piles of treasures stretched up like mountains, books, skulls, half-melted candles, even a dead fish suspended in a cracked tank. And sitting atop the central heap, glowing faintly gold, was a crown. Wait, Luz said slowly. Is that a... Moments later, she was holding a Burger Queen paper crown in her hands. The plastic gems dull and bent. My crown, King yelped, snatching it from her grasp. He placed it reverently on his head, puffing out his chest. Yes, I can feel my powers returning. You, there, nightmare critter. He pointed to a stuffed rabbit with one button eye. You shall be Francois, my first minion in the army of darkness. Luz blinked. That crown doesn't actually give him any powers, does it? Ida's laugh came with a sigh. No. Then her tone softened. Oh, look at us Luz. King, Naruto, and I don't have much in this world. We only have each other. So if that dumb crown makes him happy, it matters to me too. Luz turned toward them. Naruto was circling King, tail flicking lazily. Pretending to obey his orders. It was the most she'd seen the fox move all day. Ida caught Luz's gaze and grinned. Us weirdos have to stick together, you know? The words hit her harder than she expected. Luz smiled, the warmth sinking deep. Yeah, she whispered. Good, Ida said, cracking her knuckles. Now let's get out of here before the warden finds us and loses his head. A new voice rumbled behind them. Too late. Luz froze. Warden Wrath loomed in the doorway, the shadows bending around his hulking frame. His hand morphed into a blade and, before Luz could even react, he swung. Ida's head dropped clean from her shoulders. Luz screamed, lunging forward and catching it. Oh, I hate when that happens, Ida grumbled, sticking her tongue out like a bad stage actor before blinking irritably. Luz's scream only grew louder. Ida rolled her eyes. Relax, kid. Comes with age. The comfort didn't help much. Luz gently set her head back as Wrath's massive steps shook the ground. Finally, he growled, "I have you cornered, owl lady." He reached down and snatched King's crown. "My guards could never catch you, but I knew if I took your pet's toy, you'd come running." He crushed the paper crown in one fist. King's eyes went wide. "No, my power." Ida sighed, glaring, "What do you want with me? I haven't broken your laws, at least, not in front of you." Wrath chuckled, a deep, rasping sound, and then, without warning, dropped to one knee and produced a bouquet of wilted flowers. "I want you." He paused dramatically. "Got to go out with me." "What?" Luz and Ida said in unison. Even the Naruto lifted his head, eyes narrowing in disbelief. Two guards peeked through the doorway. "You go, boss." Wrath shot them a thumbs up. "You've always been the one who got away. I find that alluring." Luz just blinked. "I hate everything you're saying right now." Wrath's tone snapped. "You stay out of this." He hurled the bouquet aside. His hand twisted, transforming into writhing tentacles that lashed toward Luz. Time slowed. She saw the attack coming. But her body refused to move. Her fingers tightened around Ida's head, then, suddenly, the tentacles stopped mid-swing. An arm, tan, human, and strong, had caught them. Luz turned in shock. The hand belonged to Naruto, and seeing it attached to a small fox was wrong. "Damn man," he muttered, voice low and rough, a mix of human tone and animal growl. "You're way too loud." Wrath's eyes widened as the fox leapt from Luz's shoulder. Midair, golden light flared, fur giving way to skin, muscle, and flame-like chakra. When Naruto landed, the floor cracked beneath him. He wasn't the lazy little fox anymore. He stood taller than Ida, shoulders broad beneath a black hoodie trimmed in orange. The sleeves rolled high to reveal arms marked with glowing circle sigils lined with kanji. Fox ears, golden at the base and tipped in orange, twitched atop his messy hair. His whisker-marked face caught the flickering light, half wild, half calm, and Luz's heart did an odd little flip. Wrath tried to yank back, but Naruto held firm. Then, with one powerful motion, he swung the warden into the wall like he weighed nothing. Dust rained down. Naruto straightened, face unreadable, voice flat. "You should have stuck to letters." There was silence. Luz finally blurted, "That fox is a guy." Ida's head barked a laugh while her body stumbled over to retrieve it. "Yup, a real looker too, and my best guard dog." Naruto turned, unimpressed. "Shouldn't we be leaving?" Luz's face burned. She nodded quickly, shaking away thoughts she wasn't ready to examine. She snatched Ida's staff and herded everyone together. Within moments, they were airborne again, Ida's head tucked safely in Luz's arms, King clinging to her shoulder, and Naruto, once more a fox, perched on her back, tail flicking. Expecto, flying, magicus, escapicus. Luz tried, waving the staff. Ida groaned, seeing Wrath already stirring, gun it magic stick. The staff jolted forward, shooting through the tower like a missile. Wrath roared behind them, his tentacles whipping out, propelling him after their trail. The conformatorium blurred past, cells. Stairways, beams of cold moonlight. Wrath roared, his arms unfurling into whips of muscle and smoke. "Owl lady, you won't get away." They shot down the corridor, blasting past rows of cells. Luz eyed each lever and shouted, "Ida, lend me a hand." Ida's body slapped its hand against hers, and a few flick cells opened one by one. The staff burst through the outer wall, moonlight spilling in as Warden Wrath followed, fire licking from his mask. He slammed his tentacles into the ground before launching them at the group to pull them down. The staff spun, they hit the ground hard, Luz dropping Ida's head, King yowling, Naruto landing in front of them all, human form ready. Ida reattached her head and tossed Luz the portal key. "Go back to the human world, kid." "What about you guys?" King puffed his chest, "If you think he's bad, you should have seen her last boyfriend." "Not my boyfriend," Ida yelled, dragging him away from another swing as Naruto kicked Wrath in the chest, only to be swatted aside. "Go!" she shouted, throwing Luz onto the staff and slapping it into motion. Wrath's mask split down the center, revealing a jagged mouth packed with serrated teeth. The roar that followed came with a blast of fire, hot enough to melt the stone beneath his feet. Naruto dropped in front of Ida, his tattoos igniting like 1,000 golden seals. The circles along his arms spun with a humming rhythm, pulling the flames inward before he slammed both palms into the ground. The air rippled, and the fire reversed course, erupting back toward Wrath in a burning tidal wave. The warden crashed into the wall with enough force to shake the tower. Dust rained from the ceiling. Luz steadied herself on the staff, heart hammering, staring at the hole his body had left behind. Through it, she caught a glimpse of the prisoners, the same faces she'd met earlier, peeking timidly from the shadows of their cells. None of them moved, none ran. Her stomach turned. Even now, with freedom just steps away, they stayed caged. She guided the staff down through the broken wall, boots scraping the stone floor as she landed. "Why are you all just standing there?" she shouted, voice echoing. "This is your chance to escape." "The warden'll catch us," one muttered, eyes downcast. "He always does." "We belong here," whispered the witch from before, her tone almost apologetic. "Self-doubt is a poison you can never escape from," squeaked the tiny one. Luz's breath caught. For a moment, she saw herself in their hunched postures, in their tired eyes. The way they looked at the world like it had already decided what they were allowed to be. That same hopelessness, the same weight her mom's words always left behind, pressed at her chest. Then she straightened, the trembling in her hands turned into something steady, something fierce. "So, you have a different way of doing things, a different way of seeing things." Her voice rose, echoing through the cracked chamber. "That might make you weird, but it also makes you awesome, don't you see?" The witch blinked at her, surprise flickering across her face. "Why help us?" Luz's expression softened. She remembered Ida's crooked grin, the way she'd said us weirdos have to stick together. Because nobody should be punished for who they are. She pulled her hood up, the little stitched cat ears folding over her hair. "Now, let's get them." Cheers broke out from every corner. Prisoners poured from their cells, voices overlapping in a chaotic chorus. "I eat my own eyes. I think the world is a triangle. And I write fanfiction." The sound was wild, liberating. Luz couldn't help but laugh as they rushed forward, dogpiling Wrath in a storm of limbs and nonsense. She soared back into the air, gripping the staff as moonlight poured through the broken ceiling. Below, the warden thrashed, roaring up at her. "Who do you think you are?" Luz steadied the staff, wind whipping her hair. "Do not underestimate me, Warden Wrath, for I am Luz Nocida, human warrior of peace." Her grin was fearless. "Now eat this, sucka." She flung a firecracker, one that she had kept in her bag since her last failed project, skyward and smacked it with the end of Ida's staff. It sailed down into Wrath's mouth. The flame sparked the fireworks, and they began to burst out of his mouth, before he ran off, trying desperately to stop the fireworks in the tower. The prisoners erupted in cheers as Wrath stumbled away, sparks and smoke curling from his jaw like a beaten dragon. Ida landed beside Luz. Hair wild, eyes gleaming with pride. King perched on her head, puffed up in triumph, while Naruto stood a few steps behind, human again, arms crossed, fox-like eyes half-lidded in quiet amusement. King broke the silence first. That was one of her better breakups. "Not a breakup," Ida huffed, though the corner of her mouth twitched up. "Now let's bounce before any more monsters fall in love with me." Naruto rolled his eyes, flicking his tail as the staff rose beneath them. Together, they lifted off into the glowing night, the air alive with color and smoke. Below them, the conformatorium blazed with fireworks, its once quiet walls echoing with laughter and freedom. For the first time since she'd stumbled into this world, Luz felt weightless. Like maybe, just maybe, being a weirdo wasn't something she had to escape from anymore. The owl house came into view beneath the clouds, its crooked spires leaning like they were arguing with gravity. The night had settled into that strange boiling isle's glow, moon silver and faintly green, the air thick with magic and mist. The staff drifted down, carrying its 4 passengers through the open window. Luz barely felt her feet touch the floor before exhaustion hit her in a wave. Ida rested her staff against the couch with a sigh of satisfaction, while Naruto, now human again, simply dropped onto the same couch like it had been calling his name. King scrambled up beside him, perching on his shoulder like he owned the spot. For a moment, the house was still, the candles flickered on their own. Somewhere, a pipe hissed like a sleeping beast. Luz stood near the door, watching them all. A part of her didn't want to break the quiet. Ida was the first to speak, voice low but warm. "Well," she said, turning toward her with a small smile, "a deal's a deal." She snapped her fingers, the portal key Luz had forgotten she even carried tugged itself free from her bag and floated into Ida's hand. The witch pressed her thumb against the small golden eye at its center. The air shimmered, then the same door Luz had chased the fox through appeared in the middle of the room. Now that she wasn't sprinting after a thief or fleeing for her life, Luz finally took it in. The frame was carved from dark, petrified wood, veins of gold spiraling through its grain like living veins of light. Symbols shifted faintly across the surface as the eye on the door blinked. The next a swirl, the next a pattern she didn't quite recognize but felt drawn to. The door pulsed once, humming like a heartbeat. "Time to get you home," Ida said softly. Luz stepped closer. The glow of the portal painted her face in soft gold. It would be so easy to just walk through. Go back to her mom, go back to normal. But as her hand hovered over the door, she looked back at the 3 faces watching her, each so strange, so different, and she hesitated. If she was going to say goodbye to this world, she wanted to make it count. She turned first to King, who was already half dozing on Naruto's shoulder. Digging into her bag, she pulled out her old good witch Azura doll, the one she never went anywhere without. The little felt crown wobbled in her hand before she slipped it free and held it out to him. "Before I go," she said softly, "it won't be the same as your old one, but no king should be without a crown." King blinked up at her, then slowly took the toy crown, placing it on his head with dramatic reverence. "This will suffice," he declared, puffing his chest out before waddling off the couch. Luz couldn't help but laugh. Then Naruto spoke up from where he'd slouched back again. "You're gonna want this." He reached behind him and pulled out her tattered Azura book. Luz's eyes widened. "When did you?" "You dropped it back at the stands," he said simply, tossing it toward her. "Plus, you threw it away before. But if you chased me through a creepy house and a magic door to get it back, I figured you'd regret not having it." "Trash thief," Luz teased under her breath, smiling despite herself. "You threw it away," Naruto deadpanned, leaning his head against the couch arm. She caught the book, running her thumb across the worn spine. It felt heavier now, like it meant more somehow. "Have a good life, kid," Ida said from the other side of the room, voice gentle. "Hopefully it's as exciting as today was." Luz nodded, clutching the book to her chest. Then she turned toward the door again, its light washing across her hoodie and the floor beneath her. But her steps slowed. Was this really what she wanted? To go back home, to another internship she didn't care about, to another polite smile and a future she wasn't sure was hers? She loved her mom, she knew that. She understood why she pushed her so hard, but this place. This wild, weird, dangerous place had felt right. Not perfect, far from it, but alive. And she realized, standing in the golden glow of that portal, that she wasn't ready to let go of it yet. Not forever, just for now. Just long enough to figure out what it meant to feel like she belonged somewhere. She spun back toward the others, heart pounding with the decision she hadn't realized she'd already made. "I know you got your head cut off," she started, eyes flicking to Ida, "and we kinda started a prison riot, but this was the most fun I've had in a long time." The room went quiet. Ida blinked in confusion. King tilted his head. Naruto's eyes opened, that unreadable look of quiet understanding flickering there. I don't fit in at home, Luz said, her voice steadier now. And you guys don't fit in here. Maybe we could not fit in together. Ida raised an eyebrow. Wait, what are you talking about? I don't want to go to that internship, Luz admitted, smiling shyly. I want to stay, just for a while. Maybe learn a little magic, maybe learn to be a witch. Ida snorted, humans can't become witches, kid. Maybe it's just because no humans ever tried, Luz shot back, her grin bright and daring. Ida stared at her, half annoyed, half amused. Luz sighed, trying again, softer. I'll do whatever you tell me to. I'll work, I'll help, just let me stay here. King, who'd been quietly gnawing on a cookie, piped up. Let her stay, she can make us snacks. Ida turned her look on him, then to Naruto, who was now a small fox again. Curled up on the couch arm. He opened one crimson eye lazily. I don't care, he said simply, his voice a low rumble. If she stays, she stays. If she doesn't, she doesn't. He yawned, closing his eye again. Though, it'd be interesting to have someone new around for once. Ida smirked, don't get mad when your nap time gets cut in half. Naruto's eye snapped open, don't even joke about that. Luz laughed, the sound bubbling up uncontrollably. She didn't know if it was the exhaustion, or relief, or the weird warmth that filled the room, but for the first time in a long while, she felt lighter. Ida crossed her arms, still half grinning. Well, I do need extra hands keeping these two out of trouble. Her tone softened as she extended a hand toward Luz. So fine, I'll teach you, but you work for me before you learn any spells, deal? Luz looked at her hand, then threw her arms around Ida and King both. Ida stiffened, startled, while King squawked in protest. From the couch, Naruto let out a quiet laugh, muffled by his tail. For Luz, it was enough. Her new life wasn't waiting on the other side of the door, it was already here, in this house full of weirdos, under the same crooked roof, and the same endless, magical sky. And maybe, just maybe, this was where she was supposed to be. Days later. Naruto lay sprawled on the warm sand near the owl house, sun blazing overhead. Summer air heavy against his fur. He was half asleep, curled lazily into his tail, letting the steady rush of the tide and the hum of cicadas lull him toward nothingness. Then came the clatter of falling junk. His ear twitched before his eye even opened. A sigh slipped out as he turned toward the noise. Down the shore, Luz, Ida, and King collecting garbage from a dead beach trash slug, one of those bloated, half-dead things that washed up full of junk every few days. The smell hit him first, then the sound. It towered over them, spewing coins, glass, and half-digested garbage while Luz seemed disgusted, and Ida grinned. The fox had no intention of moving. Naruto grimaced. Disgusting, he muttered, turning away again. Whatever madness Ida had planned today, it clearly didn't need his help. He let his eyes drift shut, mind wandering to familiar patterns. Life in the Isles had always been a loop: wake, help, eat, sleep, repeat. Years ago, when he'd been younger, just a kid, that cycle had been all he knew. Surviving alone had trained him to listen, to wait, to watch. It wasn't strategy anymore, it was muscle memory. Ida changed that rhythm when she found him, and King gave it noise. Together they made something close to peace, a kind of family he'd never expected to find. Though he was called a pet by most, he didn't care much though. But recently, things had shifted again. A human, Luz, had dropped into their strange little world. Loud, reckless, impossible to ignore. Every day she begged Ida to teach her magic, and every day Ida found a reason to send her on errands instead. The girl never gave up. She fascinated him, though he'd never admit it. Her energy, her curiosity, it wasn't magical, but it radiated all the same. She had no aura, no presence he could sense, yet somehow she filled the room just by being in it. He wasn't sure if that was bravery or madness. Maybe both. Her first week had nearly gotten her eaten by a fake wizard. She'd believed every word of destiny until the Khan turned hungry. Naruto had stepped in, though his method of saving her wasn't exactly gentle. He smirked faintly at the memory. Fried calamari, not bad, considering it screamed. Since then, Luz had learned faster than he expected. A little more aware, a little less naive, but still chasing wonder like it wouldn't burn her. It reminded him of someone, though he didn't care to remember who. Ida treated her like a pupil, King treated her like a playmate. Naruto watched, that was what he did, not because he distrusted her, but because watching had always come before trusting. His 17 years of life were too harsh, making him rely only on what he could see, and it was a habit that refused to die. Even now, surrounded by the only people he'd ever call family, some part of him stayed alert, quietly taking stock of the world in case it changed again. Ugh, that sounds like a bunch of magic school stuff. The half-annoyed shout tugged Naruto out of his lazy haze. The fox cracked open one amber eye, tail flicking as he watched Ida half buried in the wreckage of a dead trash slug. Luz stood nearby, trying not to breathe too deeply while King rummaged around somewhere behind the piles. Wait, there's a magic school here? Luz asked, lifting a brow. Her voice carried that familiar spark before her grin spread. Like winding towers, cute uniforms, and maybe a few dark plots that definitely threaten your life kind of magic school. She'd clearly imagined this kind of thing before. Naruto was just surprised she wasn't bouncing in place. Emichim, Ida replied, digging through the filth. And what's worse, they make you learn magic the proper way. But magic isn't proper, it's wild and unpredictable. She raised a hand dramatically, letting a flare of magic pop a bottle in the heap beside her. And that's what makes it beautiful. Ida straightened, brushing muck off her hands with a proud smirk. I didn't finish school, and look at me. Who wouldn't envy this life? The swarm of flies circling her and the piles of half-rotted garbage ruined the image almost instantly. Luz grimaced. Ida faltered, coughed once. Then forced a laugh. Right. Here's a real lesson. She dropped her trash picker and crouched into the sludge. A great witch is resourceful. Naruto flicked an ear as she popped up again, triumphant, holding a dripping lump of slime that barely looked solid. Like this, she declared. Oh hey, Luz said weakly, a greasy slime ball. Ida didn't notice the dead tone. She pressed the squishy thing into Luz's hand with motherly pride. Use your slime ball wisely, young witch. Then she turned back to the carcass, scooping up another bag with too much energy for the smell around her. Back at it, we'll hit the stink nodes first. Luz stared at the slime ball, then at the slug. Her shoulders slumped. Actually, if it's okay, she said, inching backward, I think I'll go home and look at pictures of animals that are, still alive. Ida waved her off, suit yourself, kid. Luz passed King on the way out, patting his tiny head. Bye King, you little beach peach. The teen disappeared into the trees, her voice fading into the hum of cicadas. For a long moment, the clearing was quiet, just Ida rummaging, King humming, and the steady hiss of flies. Then Ida glanced over her shoulder at Naruto. He didn't need her to say anything. With a quiet sigh, the fox uncurled and slipped into the woods after Luz, paws silent on the dirt. Naruto caught up with the human easily, moving soundlessly through the treetops. He stayed close but unseen, eyes tracking her as she walked beneath him. She looked disappointed, like she was already reconsidering the boiling aisles. He couldn't tell if he should care enough to stop her, or just let her go. Ida had told him to watch, not to care. He hated how she made things sound so simple. He shifted his weight to leap to the next branch, misjudged by an inch, and the world tilted. The fox fell fast, cursing under his breath, branches whipping past until he landed squarely in Luz's hood. It wasn't luck, Naruto had the uneasy feeling something always pulled him toward trouble, and he wasn't wrong. He hissed quietly, twisting himself upright within the fabric. Luz froze, shoulders stiffened. What are you doing in my hood?" Luz twisted around, trying to catch a glimpse of him. Naruto blinked up, unimpressed. "Ida told me to watch you." Luz sighed through her nose. Of course she did. Her voice held more disappointment than anger, and when she started walking again, it was slower. He could have stayed quiet, should've, maybe. He wasn't used to talking to people to make them feel better. He'd spent too long learning how not to talk at all. But for some reason, watching her shrink like that didn't sit right. "You know you're going the wrong way, right?" he said finally. "I'm not going home." Her tone was firm, but tired. "I'm going to Bonesboro. Maybe I'll find something to do while Ida's dumpster diving instead of teaching me." "Really that bad?" "Yeah," Luz muttered. "I thought I'd learn magic, or spells, or something by now. But all I've done is chores and sell human junk to people who think USB sticks are cursed relics." She stopped walking, he stopped too, out of habit. "Ida keeps her promises," Naruto said. "She'll teach you, eventually. She just wants you to get used to the aisles first." She looked back, eyes skeptical, but not hostile. "And you've learned more than you think," he added, voice quieter. "Surviving here takes work, you're doing it." Luz blinked, a faint smile tugging at her lips before it fell again. "That's a lot coming from you, you're lazier than lazy." Naruto snorted, settling deeper into the fabric of her hood. "Comes with the territory, rest when you can, fight when you can't." That got a small laugh out of her, the kind that slipped out before she could stop it. "You know," Luz said, "I've been wondering something since we met." "What?" "You're always a fox, never human, why?" Naruto didn't answer at first. He wasn't expecting the question. "It's easier," he said finally. "Smaller target, less attention, people expect less from a stray fox than a person who might disappoint them. A beat. And clothes are annoying." Luz froze, realization flickered across her face, followed by a bright blush. Naruto frowned, confused. "What?" "Nothing," she said too quickly. He blinked once, then shrugged it off. He wasn't about to dig into human weirdness. Silence stretched between them again, comfortable this time, quiet except for the wind. Then Naruto spoke, voice low, "Can I ask you something?" Luz glanced back. "Yeah, sure. Why do you want to learn magic so bad? You know most people say humans can't use it." He hesitated, almost thoughtful. "Not saying it's impossible, just, no evidence to say they can." Luz looked down at the dirt path. "I don't know," she said softly. "I've always been an outcast. You know, a nobody. Magic and adventures, those were the things that made sense to me. Even when everyone told me to grow up." She slowed her pace. "I already know what I want to do with my life, but when I found this place, when I saw that it was real, it just felt right to learn from it, my first chance to be someone." She laughed weakly, pulling the slime ball from her pocket. Magic seemed like the coolest thing in the world. The slime ball glistened in her palm, ugly and wonderful all at once. "But if it's all trash diving in slime balls, maybe I don't have the stomach for it." She sighed, pocketing it again. Naruto's tail flicked thoughtfully behind him. He didn't respond right away. There was something honest in her words, something he understood too well but didn't want to admit. Before he could find anything to say, a voice echoed faintly through the woods. "You can do it." Both of them froze. Luz turned her head, wide-eyed. "I didn't imagine that, right?" "If you did," Naruto mumbled, curling back into her hood, "I didn't notice." She rolled her eyes and broke into a run toward the sound, hair whipping behind her. Naruto sighed. "Here we go again," he muttered, holding tight as she sprinted headlong into whatever came next. Luz and Naruto pushed through a wall of bushes, stopping when they spotted a witch girl about their age standing in a small clearing. Short dark hair, and green eyes. A bit chubby form with circular glasses accenting her look. She wore a Hexside Academy uniform, the purple-trimmed one Naruto recognized from the Abomination track. A cart and cauldron stood behind her, and she looked caught between panic and determination. "You can do it," the girl murmured to herself, straightening up. "Even if you get a bad grade, it doesn't define you as a witch." She started pacing. "And my parents are right. There are better opportunities on this track. Now get to school." She froze mid-step, hearing a soft crunch beneath her boot. Looking down, she saw a single flower, crushed and alone amid the dirt. Her face fell. "Oh no, little friend, I'm sorry." Kneeling, she cupped the stem between her palms and drew a glowing green circle. Spores lifted from the light, settling over the bent petals until the flower stood whole again. Before she could say anything else, the rumble of wheels rolled closer. Another cart, another cauldron, and a girl perched atop it, reading like she owned the forest. She wore the exact same uniform, only it fitted her skinny, but curved, pale form too perfectly. Her short green hair, tied back, allowing people to see the visible patches of brown by the roots. She lowered her book, eyes calm and cutting. "Willow, fancy seeing you here." Naruto caught the tone instantly, polished. Practiced superiority. Willow's shoulders stiffened. "Hi, Amity." Amity's polite smile didn't reach her eyes. "Shouldn't you be getting to class early to prep your—" A wet glorp cut her off as purple sludge spilled from Willow's cauldron, groaning like something half alive. "Oh, Willow," Amity said, almost sweetly. "You don't have anything to show, do you?" "Which drama?" Luz whispered, grinning. "Shoo," Naruto hissed, clamping a paw over her mouth. Willow tugged her hood up, cheeks coloring. Amity sighed as if disappointed. "This is why people call you half-a-witch, Willow." The name hit hard. Willow's posture folded inward, shame flashing across her face. Then a wet rattle echoed again, Amity's cauldron this time. "Looks like someone wants to say something." She flicked open the lid. "Abomination, rise." Thick purple matter climbed upward, forming a humanoid shape that leaned toward Willow and poked her forehead, leaving a star of goop. "You're a star," it droned. Amity touched her own gold badge, top student, and smiled. "Just like mine, though much smaller, and meaningless." She clasped her hands behind her back, already turning away. "See you in class, superstar." With a graceful motion, she sealed her cauldron and rolled off, her smug calmness lingering like perfume. Willow glared after her, then muttered under her breath, "See you in class, superstar." She wiped the slime from her forehead. Voice rising with anger. "I hate when she does that." Wind whipped through the clearing, scattering leaves and stirring the grass. "I hate making abominations," she shouted. "I hate getting bad grades. I can't stand this anymore." The storm answered her fury, wind circling, trees bending. Luz and Naruto shielded their eyes as a surge of green light burst outward. When Willow opened her eyes, they glowed like emerald fire. The earth cracked. Vines erupted around her, twisting into thick, thorned roots that pulsed with her heartbeat. Luz gasped as one root snapped toward her, coiling around her ankle and yanking her into the air, Naruto tumbling with her. For a moment, Willow's gaze burned with something wild and ancient. Then, as quickly as it came, it vanished. The glow faded from her eyes. "Oh Titan, I'm so sorry," she cried, waving her hand. The roots receded instantly, dropping Luz and Naruto onto the dirt. Luz winced, rubbing her leg. "It's okay, the thorns only got through a few layers of skin." Willow hurried closer, worry etched across her face. Then she noticed Luz's round ears. "They're so circly." A blink of realization. "You're a human." Luz clamped her hands over her ears, groaning. Naruto sighed from where he sat. He should have seen that coming. The fox hopped onto Luz's shoulder, curling lazily. "Yes, she's human, and could you not shout about it?" "I'm trying to nap." Willow's eyes widened. "A talking fox, wait, you're the owl lady's fox, aren't you?" "The nine-tailed demon." Luz stared at him, baffled. "Nine-tailed what now?" Naruto didn't answer, he just closed his eyes like he'd heard that title one too many times. Willow circled Luz, curiosity replacing fear. How did you even get to the Boiling Isles? What are you doing here? Before Luz could answer, the sharp clang of a distant bell cut through the air. Willow flinched. I'm sorry, she said softly. I have to go disappoint my teacher. She paused, offering Luz a shy smile. It was nice meeting you, human. And just like that, she hurried off down the path toward Hexside, leaving Luz and Naruto standing in the quiet aftermath of tangled roots and scattered leaves. Willow moved toward her fallen cart, grunting as she dragged the heavy cauldron upright. The abomination goo inside gave a sad glorp, as if it wanted to go back to being spilled. Naruto stretched in Luz's hood, already ready to bail. Not our problem, he thought, tail flicking against her shoulder. Girl's got her own mess to fix. He was about to tell Luz as much when he noticed they were moving, towards the girl that just walked away. He sighed, ears drooping, of course. Luz was already walking toward the witch girl, determination in every step. She couldn't just watch someone look that defeated. Not when she'd felt that way herself not too long ago. Hey, wait up, Luz called, voice bright enough to make the other girl stop mid-step. I'm Luz, and you're Willow, right? What you did back there, with the flower and those vines, that was amazing. Willow blinked, clearly surprised. Oh, thanks. But I'm not supposed to do plant magic. Luz frowned, not supposed to? Willow's eyes fell to the dirt. My parents put me in the abomination track. Said it had better opportunities. Her voice carried quiet bitterness, the kind that didn't belong in someone their age. From Luz's hood, Naruto exhaled softly through his nose. Yeah, figures, parents always want to shape their kids into something. It could either be good, or bad. Luz tilted her head, curiosity blooming like a light bulb. Wait, so like, magic school? Willow nodded, confused by the sudden excitement. Yeah, Hexside School of Magic and Demonics. That was all Luz needed. Her face lit up like a festival lantern. That's so cool, I have a teacher, but her lessons are kinda untraditional. She hesitated, thinking of Ida and her life lessons. She probably wouldn't let me enroll anyway. But I wish I could spend one day there. Naruto could hear the wistfulness in her tone, the soft drop in her voice. She's still trying to find her place here. Willow's shoulders slumped. I just wish I could get a passing grade. Maybe then people would stop calling me half-a-witch. She kicked her cauldron, it groaned pitifully. Luz watched her with a look Naruto had come to recognize, the kind that meant trouble was brewing behind that smile. Here it comes, he thought. And there it was, the spark. Luz clapped her hands together. Wait, what if we both get what we want? Willow blinked, caught off guard. What? Luz grinned, bending down to scoop up 2 handfuls of purple goop, smearing them across her hoodie. You make me your abomination, and boom, you get a great grade, and I get to see Hexside. Naruto groaned aloud. You cannot be serious. Willow just stared at Luz like she'd lost her mind. That can't work. Luz only beamed wider. Sure it can, I saw that girl's thing earlier. It's just, talking goop, I can totally be talking goop. Naruto facepawed, she's actually proud of that sentence. Willow hesitated again, then smiled faintly. You know, that actually might work. Naruto dropped from her hood with a soft thud, tail flicking, gesturing her to follow him away from Willow. We need to talk. Luz blinked, half smiling. What, you're not seriously mad about the goo thing, are you? I'm mad about the everything thing. He jerked his head toward Willow's cart. This isn't our business. Luz frowned. She looked like she needed help. That doesn't make it our problem. His voice stayed flat, but there was an edge to it. Ida told me to watch you, not follow you into other people's messes. She crossed her arms. So you're saying if someone's in trouble, we just ignore it? I'm saying, he countered, ears twitching, that getting involved in someone else's drama is a good way to end up stuck in it. Luz opened her mouth, then hesitated. He's so calm about it. Like helping people is optional, but isn't that what Ida would do, she said finally. She helps people, sometimes, in weird ways. Naruto exhaled through his nose. Ida also steals people's mail when she's bored. Okay, bad example. They stared at each other for a moment. The woods were quiet except for the gurgle of Willow's abomination. Then Luz's voice softened. Look, maybe you don't care, but I do. I can't just walk away. He looked at her, really looked at her. She's serious. Great. He could already hear Ida's voice in his head when this went wrong. You really want to do this? He asked. Luz nodded. Naruto gave a tired sigh, muttering under his breath. Fine, but if Ida asks, I tried to stop you. A smile flickered over Luz's face. That's all I needed to hear. He shot her a sidelong glance as he hopped back into her hood. She's gonna get herself killed one day. Then, softer, almost to himself, and apparently I'm gonna be there to watch it happen. They'd actually made it inside. Naruto had stopped complaining once the plan worked. Though that didn't mean he liked it. He hid inside Willow's cauldron with Luz, the cramped space forcing him to curl up against the side as the cart rolled along the tiled halls of Hexside. At least now that they were in, the annoyance dulled into quiet patience. They'd met one of Willow's friends earlier, a young witch with short hair and a grin that never stopped talking. Augustus, though Luz had instantly renamed him Gus. The kid ran something called the Human Appreciation Club and was thrilled to meet an actual human. Naruto had stayed quiet through the whole thing, his ears twitching as they talked about posters and human artifacts. Now, he just waited. Waiting was easy. It's what he did best. He could either get a lecture from Ida later, or sit here and do what Ida told him, watch Luz. Finally, their cart rolled into the classroom. Willow's teacher, a short, round man who had to be carried around by his own abomination, was already grading other students. With every project he examined, he grew more and more disappointed, which, honestly, Naruto couldn't blame him for. Not one of the so-called abominations looked close to humanoid. They were just half-melted piles of goop that groaned when poked. The teacher prodded one that had 3 eyes and with masses of feet all around its body, and turned to its creator, a girl with small horns. This one has too many feet, he muttered. Then, louder, fail, pathetic work. The student sighed and dragged her abomination back to her seat. Professor Homunculus rubbed his temples, his abomination shifting beneath him to keep him balanced. This class, he groaned, is the biggest abomination I've seen all year. If just one of you could make a leg, one leg, I might pass you. The students all looked ready to disappear into the floor, except the calm, smug girl sitting in front of Willow, who they had seen earlier. Homunculus sighed again. Fine, the next failure, and everyone gets extra homework for a month. The room erupted in groans and mutters. Not half a witch again. Great, homework for a month. Willow's shoulders sank. Luz whispered encouragement from inside the cauldron, her tone bright and insistent, while Naruto rolled his eyes in the dark. She really should listen to them, he thought. She's better with plants than this slime work. Still, Willow lifted her chin, forcing a small smile. She pushed the cauldron forward to the front of the class, and Naruto could practically feel her heartbeat thumping through the metal. Abomination, rise, Willow said, voice trembling. The lid shot off. Luz jumped out, dripping in purple sludge, landing with a splat that made half the class gasp. Naruto had to admit, she looked the part. Droopy eyes. Sluggish stance, and the goop clinging to her hoodie helped sell it. Still, he doubted any teacher worth his robes would fall for this. Abomination, bow, Willow ordered quickly. Luz groaned like a zombie and bowed low. Professor Homunculus blinked, then grinned wide. Very impressive, but, does it speak? There was a short pause before Luz leaned close to Willow, deadpan expression holding. I may be your abomination, but you're my abomination. The class froze, then laughter broke out all around them. Even the professor chuckled. Marvelous, such articulation, such wit. He grabbed a glowing brush and painted a large red right on Luz's forehead. The students cheered. Amity's eyebrow twitched. Willow looked stunned, then overjoyed. Naruto just watched her quietly from the cauldron. She looked happy, really happy. He rested his chin on his paws, eyes half-lidded in thought. Did Luz really have that kind of effect on people? The rest of the day passed in a blur of magic and mischief. Luz spent every free moment with Willow and Gus, learning about witches, magic, and Hexside culture, while somehow teaching Gus everything he ever wanted to know about humans. The young witch soaked it up, scribbling every word down like it was ancient wisdom. Luz, of course, looked like she was having the time of her life. Naruto mostly followed along from the sidelines. Eyes half-lidded, pretending he didn't care. But he watched her, not out of duty this time, but out of quiet curiosity. For someone who barely knew this world, Luz fit into it with a kind of chaotic grace. Wherever she went, people laughed, talked, moved. Her presence stirred things up in ways Naruto couldn't explain. He didn't understand how someone's voice could change the whole room. It wasn't chakra, or magic, or energy, it was just her. And that made her a mystery he couldn't solve. They'd run into Amity a few times too. Each meeting was brief, a passing glare in a corridor, a short exchange that Luz handled with awkward her acting skills. Somehow, they managed to stay under deep cover. Barely. By the time lunch ended, the three of them found an empty classroom, the same abomination room from earlier, and decided to hide there till the end of the school day. Luz and Naruto clambered out of Willow's cauldron. Luz stretched her arms, spine popping after sitting in slime for half the day. Naruto shook himself out, flicking strands of abomination goop from his fur. Phew, that was awesome, Luz said, hands on her hips. Though I wonder why we kept running into Amity, but hey, we don't have to worry about her now, high five. She held out her hand, grinning. Willow and Gus just stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Naruto, perched lazily on a desk nearby, snorted a quiet laugh. Luz blinked, come on, slap my hand, it's a human thing. Gus hesitated, then gave a timid tap against her palm. Oh, he breathed, eyes widening. He did it again. Then again, faster this time. Oh, my. Oh man, what a rush. Willow giggled softly, the sound easing the tension in the air. Luz beamed. Naruto watched from above, chin on his paws, wondering again how this strange human made people feel lighter just by existing. He almost smiled, but then the classroom door creaked open. The sound cut through the laughter like a blade. Amity stood in the doorway, hands clasped neatly behind her back, face blank but eyes sharp. She stepped aside. Behind her entered a tall, stooped man in long black robes, the fabric trailing behind him like a shadow. His face was half hidden behind a devilish mask, his voice rasping and deliberate. Good afternoon, students, he said, tone like a sermon. Principal bump, Willow squeaked. Luz immediately froze, then dropped to the floor, pretending to be an inactive abomination. Naruto dove into the shadows beneath a desk, fur bristling. Bump's heavy footsteps echoed as he crossed the room, every movement creaking like old parchment. When Miss Blight told me about your abomination, he said, I had to see it for myself. Amity smirked faintly, proud of herself, though her posture remained prim. Gus and Willow both shuffled backward as the principal loomed over the table where Luz lay stiff. His long, gloved fingers cupped her chin, turning her head side to side. Luz's fake blank stare didn't waver, but Naruto caught the subtle tremor in her breath. Echem, Bump murmured. Abomination, rise. Luz obeyed, jerky and slow, arms stiff like a puppet. Abomination, lie. Luz stammered, voice monotone. Viral fame is a worthy pursuit. Your cat would never eat you if it got the chance. Chemtrails are real, Bump chuckled. Oh, no. I mean lie down, how weird for it to get a command wrong, he pointed to a desk. Luz whimpered and lay flat. So very lifelike, he mused, tone almost approving. Willow swallowed hard as the principal turned to her. Tell me, Mississippi Park. When Miss Blight informed me of this specimen, she failed to mention how you managed to create such convincing features. Amity's smug expression returned as Willow slid a folded paper forward, trying to stop something before it began. I have her list of ingredients right here. No need, Bump interrupted, pulling a dagger from his sleeve. We'll take a closer look. He offered the blade to Willow. You may make the first incision. Naruto's fur stood on end. He didn't move yet, but his pupils narrowed to slits. Willow took the dagger with trembling hands. You can't just cut open a human, can you? She whispered. Luz's eyes darted toward her and she gave a small shake of her head. Principal Bump's voice cut through the tension, dry and expectant. Go on, Mississippi Park, make the first incision. Willow froze. Everyone was watching her, Amity's arms crossed, the classroom holding its breath, the dagger's reflection shaking against the candlelight. Then the air cracked. A blur of orange and yellow shot from the back of the room, Naruto, vaulting through the air. He shifted mid-motion, body stretching back into human form, heel slamming into Bump's chest hard enough to knock the old man backward into wall of the classroom. We gotta run, he barked. He shrank back into his fox form and bolted through the door, Luz and Willow right behind him. Gasps filled the classroom. Even Amity was too stunned to move. The three tore down the corridor. Naruto's paws hit the floor in rapid rhythm, his tail flicking for balance. Always running, he thought dryly, better than fighting, less work. He rounded a corner and finally slowed, letting Willow and Luz catch their breath. Luz leaned against the wall, panting. This is all my fault, she said between breaths. I just wanted to see a real magic school. Willow smiled faintly. How do you like it so far? Luz laughed once, tired but genuine. Honestly, still kinda awesome. Love that for you too, Naruto muttered, ears twitching. But maybe we focus on getting out before. The lights snapped off. A deep red glow flooded the hall, sigils crawling like veins along the walls. Circles locked into place, humming with power. The bastards sealed us in, Naruto finished flatly. He rose to human height again, scanning the barrier's runic pattern. Breaking it would take time, too much. Damn it, he thought, Ida was right, all the power in the world means nothing if you can't reach the wall you're trying to break. He turned back to the girls, motioning ahead. Move, stick close. They darted through every open hall they could find, weaving through corridors that glowed red at the edges until they skidded to a stop, Principal Bump blocking the exit, Amity beside him, abominations massing like purple shadows. Naruto stepped forward, run. The abominations lunged first, fast, heavy, he reacted faster. Animal-like instinct flooded his limbs as he twisted aside, flipping over the first two, his seals flaring gold. His palms struck through the monsters, they imploded, absorbed into the tattoos on his arms. He slammed both hands forward, releasing twin bursts of purple sludge. They splattered back into Bump's robes, knocking the principal off balance. Naruto sprinted to where Luz and Willow hid behind a column. That bought us 30 seconds, he said, voice calm but clipped. We still need a way out. Willow looked at him, face pale. This is awful, she whispered. Maybe Amity was right, maybe I really am half a witch, Luz interrupted gently. No way. You're great. She smiled at her new friend. Someone told me once that great witches are resourceful. Naruto couldn't help a small grin. Ida's words coming back around. Guess the kid really listened. He looked at the glowing walls. Then let's be resourceful, any ideas? Luz dug through her pockets, pulling out bits of junk, and the greasy slime ball from earlier. Willow's eyes widened, that's it. Luz blinked, wait, this nasty thing? It's not slime, it's a seed, Willow exclaimed. Thank Titan you had it. Luz smiled faintly, guess I'm glad someone told me to hold on to it. Willow lifted the seed, her magic sparking green. Vines exploded from her hands, tearing through the hallway, ripping into the runes embedded in the walls. The barriers shimmered and broke apart like shattered glass. "There's our exit," Naruto shouted, motioning them forward. They sprinted toward the open hall, but Amity stepped out, hair mussed, uniform torn, fury in her eyes. "You're not going anywhere," she hissed, summoning 3 abominations with a sweep of her arm. The sludge creatures rushed them, fast, aggressive. Naruto's seals burned red-hot as fire ignited along his arms. One quick swing sent a wave of flame barreling forward, melting the abominations into bubbling puddles. Amity stumbled back, eyes wide. What are you?" Naruto didn't answer. He just turned, "Go." They ran, but a new wall of abominations rose, dozens this time. Willow reacted first, summoning a writhing barrier of vines. The air pulsed green, her eyes glowed brighter with every breath. "Get out," she shouted. "I'll hold them." "No way," Luz yelled back. "I'm not leaving you." Willow smiled sadly, "I may get detention, but you'll get dissected." That hit Luz harder than any barrier. Naruto stared at the 2 girls, one throwing herself in danger for someone else, the other refusing to run. He couldn't decide if they were idiots or if this was what Ida meant about living wild. "They're both hopeless," he thought, then scooped Luz into his arms before she could protest. "Sorry, hero time's over." With a jump, he vaulted over Willow's wall and the crowd of abominations, bursting through the main doors just as they slammed behind him. Outside, Luz squirmed out of his hold. "We have to go back." Naruto stopped her with a paw to the forehead. "I'll handle it." She blinked. But you hate getting involved." He sighed, a lazy smirk tugging at his mouth. "Yeah, but it would be too much work to go and get Ida and come back. I'd rather end this quickly." Before Luz could reply, he vanished in a puff of smoke, his voice echoing faintly as it faded down the hall. "Tell Ida I'm collecting overtime." Naruto appeared in front of Principal Bump just as the man was tearing himself free from a nest of vines. The old witch looked exhausted, his once pristine robes torn and smeared with abomination sludge. Amity lay unconscious nearby, and Willow had already been escorted away from the school by Naruto. Naruto stretched, cracking his neck. "Man, this is the most work I've done in weeks," he muttered. He glanced at the wrecked hall, sighed, and rubbed the back of his head. This next part's probably gonna bite me in the ass." He stepped forward, offered a clawed hand, and helped the principal to his feet. "We need to talk." Bump brushed off his sleeves, glaring down at the fox-turned man. "And why?" he asked slowly, voice like sandpaper. "Would I converse with the demon fox who made a human my problem and coerced 3 of my students into chaos?" Naruto shrugged, utterly unbothered. 1. I was basically along for the ride. 2. I didn't manipulate anyone. 3. If you just hear me out, you'll get it. That earned a pause. Naruto took it as his opening. "Look," he said, rubbing the bridge of his nose, "we both know how this goes. Someone's gonna get in trouble. Willow for cheating, the human for sneaking in, you for letting it happen under your nose. But if you start swinging punishment around, nothing gets fixed. You ban Luz, you humiliate Willow, and everyone learns nothing." Bump folded his arms. "Then tell me, Fox, what would you suggest? Someone is at fault, yet you'd have me blame no one. That leaves the balance broken." Naruto yawned, ears flicking lazily. "Balance, huh, you talk fancy, but it's boring." Then he looked up, grin curling at the edge. "So here's the deal, I'll take their place." The principal blinked. "Come again?" "In exchange for dropping this whole thing," Naruto continued, "I'll work for the school. You clearly need someone to watch the halls. One kid with plant magic tore down half your defense system. Let's be honest, if I wasn't here, this probably would have ended the same way." Bump's glare sharpened. "You insult Hexide's protections." "I'm being realistic," Naruto replied. "The Isles eat proper order for breakfast. You know it as well as I do." That earned a quiet exhale from Bump, not quite agreement, but not denial either. "Let's say, Bump said at last, I were to entertain this arrangement, I would have questions. His eyes glowed faintly beneath his mask. Why would Ida's pet involve himself in Hexide's problems, or in the matters of a human girl? Naruto went quiet for a moment. He thought back on the chaos of the day, Luza's stupid bravery, Willow's trembling confidence, Gus's wild curiosity. They reminded him of a time when he acted before thinking, when survival didn't mean shutting people out. Because, he said finally, that human has a way of making things happen. She walks into a mess and somehow makes everyone better for it. I've seen that for a week straight. She's reckless, stupid sometimes, but she doesn't deserve punishment for wanting to learn. He looked away, eyes narrowing slightly, and Willow, she just wanted a better grade. She didn't cheat, she proved that she'd do anything to do better. You'd be an idiot not to move her to the plant track after what she pulled today. Bump was silent for a long moment, his mask unreadable. Then, quietly, perhaps, there's wisdom in chaos. Naruto smirked faintly. Yeah, I'm trying not to make this a habit, can we talk some other time? The principal straightened, brushing his cloak back into place. We will discuss the details of this contract later, Fox. I will need to test your capabilities before granting you any authority. Yeah, add it to my list, Naruto said, already turning away. As he walked off, he shifted back into his fox form, paws patting softly against the stone floor. Man, Luz owes me one for this, he thought, tail flicking. But maybe, caring for someone outside of Ida and King won't kill me. He yawned as he disappeared into the shadows. Not yet. Anyway. That's it for today. I hoped you liked the video. Please like and subscribe, and comment ideas if you can, and maybe you could share this with your friends, because you never know, they might like what ifs too. So without further ado, All Kage, out.